Hi everyone, happy Sunday. It's Alysia here and I'm very excited to be with you this morning for our first bi-weekly Sunday online Global Investor Fireside Chat. We're broadcasting once again live from our downtown San Francisco office overlooking the Twitter building and absolutely loving the warm San Francisco weather that we've been having these past few days. As you know, support for our awesome Global Fireside Chat community is growing incredibly well here in Silicon Valley, the pulse of global technology entrepreneurship. Not only that, but there are some incredibly exciting things happening on the horizon, and I can't wait to share all of them with you, our loyal Fireside Chat community members. Once again, today we have an amazing session planned for you. We have a panel of brilliant investors from across the globe logging in to help you understand the ins and outs around getting paid for your efforts as a startup founder. As an entrepreneur, it's often very easy to get caught up with the idea that you're building your business and that it's an investment in your future. We often feel very guilty paying ourselves, and that if we do, we are taking away from our businesses, and until they are successful, we need to do without. This can be an error fatal to our financial position and must not be made. Today, as I say, we have an amazing panel of investor experts who are here to shed some light on founders' remuneration from their perspective. Now, let me go ahead and introduce you to our VIP guests. Mute on. And to properly introduce themselves to you. Welcome to Yokohama, Kanagawa, Japan-based Tadashi Yoshida, who is a business startup expert, venture partner, and director of BusiNest Accelerator program at SME Support Japan. Welcome to Ahmedabad, India-based Pravesh Chopra, who is a financial analyst, investor, valuator, and researcher. Welcome to Singapore-based Shiva Venkatraman, who's an investor, CEO, advisory board member, and mentor. Dubai, UAE-based Heather Henyon, who's an angel investor, investment guru, and finance professional, is unfortunately traveling back from the US to Dubai and is currently stuck in transit, but she will be joining us again. And New Delhi, India-based Amaresh Kumar Rai, who's an investor, business strategist, turnaround executive, and influencer, is also joining us today. Thank you to all of you. Now we'd like to quickly go ahead and ask you to introduce yourselves to our community. Shiva, please go for it.
Hey, thank you, Lisa. I'm very excited to be online. So I'm based in Singapore. I founded a new company called Valuator, which is a growth scaling company, and we scale companies using capital, distribution, reseller networks, and ancillary services. Apart from that, I also play a role with Castor Ventures, which is a Boston-based MIT-funded, MIT alum-funded early-stage venture capital fund where we co-invest with MIT alum-funded ventures and syndicate with other angel and venture capitalists around the world. So thank you, Lisa. Excited to be here.
Very, very excited to have you join us, Shiva. Welcome. Pravesh, please say hi to everyone. And to properly introduce themselves to you. Welcome to Yokohama.
Hi, are you talking to me, Amaresh?
No, Pravesh, please go for it.
Pravesh.
Okay, thanks, Alysia. Thanks, Alysia, for introducing me. I basically look for large capabilities and mixed capabilities, as well as currently I'm working on peer-to-peer crowdfunding. Hello?
We can hear you, Pravesh. Please just speak up.
Something else? Okay, wait a second. Currently, I'm tracking private large cap and mid cap equities in India, and I look after peer-to-peer crowdfunding equity platforms. I look for deals which help my investors to invest in US and Europe.
Thank you, Pravesh.
I'm very happy to be here.
Thank you so much. Tadashi, welcome.
Hi, Alysia. I'm Tadashi Yoshida, based in the Yokohama, Japan. I'm currently working for the Tokyo Institute of Technology and I work it on my job. Basically, I supporting entrepreneurs and startups at the university, and I'm used to be. I actually used to working for the organization for the small medium enterprises and regional innovation in Japan. That's the governmental corporation to support small medium enterprises. I organize and running startup accelerator program at there, and currently I'm running a small company to give a consultation to the large company and the small medium enterprises. And my specialization is supporting startups and basically for the idea and sales levels. So thanks for
Welcome, Tadashi. Thank you for joining us. Very excited to have you. Amaresh, please say hi to everyone.
Hi guys, Amrish from New Delhi, India. I'm based out in India as a business consultant. I try to assist international companies who want to do business in India. International companies, I mean, if they want to create business. I do not talk about management consulting. I talk about business consulting. Business, I mean revenue. I mean, I talk about money, actually, how to create the money for new technologies, new services, new products from outside India, and creating business in India. That's what I do in my profile. In the second, I look for, investment portfolio as well, wherein if someone wants to do investment in India, someone wants to create a specific portfolio, business portfolio in India through their product marketing, through their manufacturing or something like this. Yes, I would be the right one who can assist them right now.
Thank you, Amaresh.
All right, thank you very much.
Jump into the questions. We'll definitely be hearing more from you. Just a few shout outs before we jump into our questions for our VIPs. On the screen are contact details for all our panelists. Please feel free to reach out to them. Don't forget to keep sending your questions through to inspireme@firesidechat.com. You can include them. Given how many of you are joining us today, we have community champions managing the chat room. So if you have a question for one of our guest panelists, feel free to post and we'll make sure to get it answered. Just a reminder, we have community champions groups in 55 countries and 79 cities across the globe, including in North and South America, the UK, Europe, Africa, the Middle East, India, and Australia. Unfortunately, the list is getting longer and longer, so I'm not going to read all the cities. If you'd like to meet up with a chapter or you'd like to start your own, feel free to reach out to me via email and I'll put you in contact with one of our local community champions. On that note, thank you to all our volunteer champions from around the globe. You are the heart and soul of our community, and we wouldn't be here today without you. Over the next few months, and with all your help, we'll be sharing and inspiring entrepreneurs across more than 100 countries. We know that together we can make this happen. Thank you to our VIP global panelists. We're extremely fortunate to have you join us, and thank you for sharing all your wisdom and support. Thank you again to our growing family of supporters and collaborators from around the developing world. We're once again hosting sessions for hundreds of entrepreneurs who don't have access to the necessary bandwidth or understanding of the English language to join our sessions on their own. Thank you to all the ministries, ministers, ambassadors, UN officers, US Embassy Corners, British Council offices, university campuses, schools, business incubators, Chamber of Commerce, community centers, radio stations, and media for all your weekly hosting support and for raising awareness within your regions and communities. Thank you to everyone from our UN Women team. We're once again streaming across new live platforms today. On that note, we have some very big news taking place, so you have to stay tuned to hear it. And if you have a radio station like us to broadcast from, don't forget to reach out to us so that we can find more amazing entrepreneurs to connect to. Our 100-country goal is going to be a reality with all your help. Now, the moment you've been waiting for, let's jump on in and start learning. Make our panelists feel as comfortable as possible. We are going to pose a question to our panelists, and we would love to hear your insights. Please feel free to be as honest as you'd like to be, and we are here to learn from you. So question one, Shiva, we're going to pose this question to you. We'd love to hear your insights. And then, of course, if any of our other panelists would like to add anything, please go ahead. Shiva, question goes as follows. Do entrepreneurs globally put everything on the line to prove their idea and their company, often to their own detriment?
Yeah, thank you, Lisa. So so let me restate because I thought I couldn't hear properly. So I heard the question as, do entrepreneurs put everything on the line globally and put them to detriment? Was that the question?
Exactly, often to their detriment.
Okay, yeah. So so let me tell you what I have observed, right? What I have seen is across the different parts of Asia where I'm operating and where I see a lot of business plans. The answer is a bit of a yes. I would say more towards a yes than a no, because in the urge to start something, they haven't thought through the entire life journey. In other words, why are they doing entrepreneurship? Why are they starting a company? Are they starting it mainly because they want to make a difference? Are they solving a business problem? Are they after a large addressable market, versus are they just doing it for the coolness or to look cool and for all the wrong reasons? And haven't thought. That's one thing that I see. The second thing that I see is they haven't thought through sometimes some of all the aspects of the business, right? Whether it's how would they, who's the customer, what is the product market fit, where's the financing going to come from? Until the company is cash flow positive, how are they going to survive? How are they going to live off their spouse's earnings, or are they going to have some other income, nest egg, etc., that they want to fall in? So I hope that addresses the question, but I feel it's a more towards a yes than a no in the markets that I see.
Very, very much so. Tadashi, would you like to add any thoughts in terms of your Japanese experience?
I actually cannot hear the question because there are some noise.
Tadashi, we're talking about the fact that globally, it seems like entrepreneurs risk everything to build their startup, off their own detriment. Is that the case in Japan also?
I think basically yes. Yeah. So
did you want to add anything there, Tadashi?
I think not really. My answer is quite similar to the Amit. Yeah.
Got it. Amaresh, in terms of your experience in India, anything you want to add there?
Well, India has the same kind of approach as was told, because India is now into the global market. India follows the same situation or the same system. Rather, sometimes it creates its own. Like sometimes I have seen people who do not have a single penny in their pocket. They do not have any funding from outside. They do not have any backup from their parents or their family. Still, they do it because they want to create. And this is not about just India. I hope it's about all across the world. If you could look at the history also suggests the same thing. So that's what.
So thank you, Amaresh. And it's a very interesting subject that we're touching on, because globally things seem very challenging and entrepreneurs are all looking for a unicorn win. And they're looking for this huge return, which is going to change their lives. And I'm in Silicon Valley, as you all know, and often this is not a reality. The majority of the businesses are going to fail, and they're not going to to give these entrepreneurs what they're looking for. Shiva, what advice do you give entrepreneurs when they're starting out and they have these dreams that they believe they can be the next Facebook?
Yeah, so the thing I would, I think I would give three pieces of advice. The first thing I would just say is do a lot of research before jumping in, right? For example, I to start my company founder, I actually work for startups. I work for Silicon Valley entrepreneurs. I worked as advisors. As an advisor, I found had a board of mentors and so on. So that's one. Do a lot of research. Make sure you have some cash cushion, like maybe a couple of years. Often, if you're married, I mean, in my case, I'm married, so I have a wife who's supporting me. I'm an entrepreneur myself, even though I'm an investor as well. But in a lot of cases, you have friends, you have family, etc. And the third piece of advice I would say is what was in my first response, right? Think of everything very, very thoroughly. I mean, 10 to 15 years ago, there weren't accelerators, there weren't a lot of people, there was not a lot of information online. But today, I mean, you can pretty much find a business plan template, pretty much, anything that you need to know, it's out there, right? So it doesn't cost a lot. And you can build a pretty simple plan, but a very comprehensive one before you actually jump in and commit a piece of your own money to start something. So those are three pieces of my advice.
Fantastic advice. Pravesh, anything you'd like to add in terms of what Shiva was saying?
I would like to add few things. First, I would like to see an entrepreneur who is practical enough, who has done his research enough, who can tell me, okay, these are the numbers, what we are addressing the market for. And this kind of information is not very hard to get. Recently, as said, it is very easy to get. Second thing, I want to look in entrepreneurs just for building a team. It is not necessary that you have to do it all on your own, but I would see that there are 2-3 senior people who are with him, or he can convince the people on part-time basis or consulting basis to be part of his venture, because eventually I would like to see an organization growing out of entrepreneurs, not just the entrepreneur doing the whole work and just one person play. I would like to see them building an organization. Thirdly, I would like to see them see their backgrounds in experience. If you don't have experience in the industry, don't just start a venture. I would like to see the entrepreneur to have work experience in different companies in the same industry. Even it's on a very basic level, but it gives me a confidence that the entrepreneur has done enough research in his industry and knows few people out to reach out. So it can be very helpful for an entrepreneur to go forward. These are three, four things that I would like to add.
Thank you, Pravesh. And one of the issues that I have come across, and I would love to hear all your insights and share it with our community, is that the entrepreneurs often try and impress you, the investors. So they believe that they'll write a business plan, or they'll put together a pitch deck, or they'll put together financials, and they want them to look really good so that you're impressed and they'll invest, or you'll invest in the business. How do you explain to entrepreneurs that they need to take ownership of the information they're actually giving you? If they can't deliver on that information, they are going to be the ones that suffer. Amarish, any thoughts in terms of this?
Yes, see, it all depends on the fire in belly, how aggressive you are within yourself, because the aggressiveness with the third eye opening, opening situation, you must be aware of whatever you are doing, focus completely, and the fire in belly. That's what I think is needed to create a new business, whatever it is.
Thank you, Amarish. Shiva, how do you explain to the entrepreneurs that when they are showing you projections, financials, business plans, decks, and that you can't just dream this stuff up? There has to be an element of reality to this, because if you fail, you stand to lose everything financially that you have.
Yeah, so what we do is we help them uncover a lot of their blind spots. So the blind spots come in various ways, right? One is their own personality, and I think it was Amarish who was pointing out about the team, right? So it's their personality, the team, what are the gaps in the team. The second blind spot is what are some of the markets, when they make financial projections. When you see a hockey stick, in fact, I was at a business plan competition on Friday, and they were suddenly showing a steep rise in the fourth year. And, one of the panelists said, hey, how come in the fourth year your revenue is going up, right? And then the team was like, well, they were looking at each other. They had no way of explaining why that was. And they went into the spreadsheet and they were caught off guard, right? But often we feel asking these tough questions and uncovering those blind spots is really critical. And I think the third area where we look for is the product market fit, right? Have you really found if you have a product and you have a few customers, don't get too excited. Is it really addressing a large addressable market that will build a sustainable business and not just a lifestyle business? It could be a lifestyle business. That's fine. But then would that lifestyle business be something that really needs venture funding, right? Which is what we're talking about. If it's really like a lifestyle business that you're selling supplements or whatever, that's just fine. But that's a reality that they need to come to terms with. So we ask all these questions to uncover those blind spots.
You touched on something very interesting, talking about blind spots, the difference between a lifestyle business and a venture-funded business. And I think one of the challenges many entrepreneurs have is the sense of almost embarrassment that I run a lifestyle business rather than a venture-funded business. How do you explain to entrepreneurs, Shiva, that there's no shame in running a lifestyle business? You should be proud of what you're doing versus it's a venture-funded business, but often it needs a lot of money in order to actually grow and succeed. Any thoughts in terms of this, Shiva?
Yeah, no, that's a very good question. It's actually, I don't know if I have a silver bullet answer, Alysia, on that. I don't know if I found the perfect solution. So I'm very interested to see what other panelists. Let me tell you my thoughts on it very quickly. I try to explain to them what a venture investor looks for. I try to explain to them how there's different asset classes. You invest in debt, you get in India you can get 8 to 9%. In Singapore, if you're lucky, you get 1.5. In the US, it's probably a bit lesser, right? And if you do venture, you're looking for 10x, 15, 20x returns, but maybe a third of the companies might fail, and then another third you may not even know which way they will go, right? So it's a bit hard sometimes to explain. Because often, as I said, the entrepreneur is blinded by the fact that they're looking at a Jack Ma on stage or a Mark Zuckerberg or here we have Grab and there's Uber. I mean, these stories are sexy. They sound great. But it's often that they get so blinded that, hey, I'm going after this great thing that it's very hard to sort of. So to be honest, I haven't found a silver bullet answer. But the one thing that seems to work is compare the asset classes and show them, hey, this is what a venture investor looks for.
Very interesting. Pravesh, any insights you'd like to share in terms of what Shiva was saying?
From my previous experience, I would say, as an entrepreneur, it's a difficult journey, and it's not. I'm not gonna roast it. Okay, now you can be easy, as it's said that 1/3 ventures just fails. But what I would like to know about the entrepreneur is how much he knows himself as a person, because it's nothing wrong to go for a lifestyle business or go for VC funding, but he should know, okay, in a VC funding we are building something, and it would be a lot of people that you have to take care of, and if you're not a personality who wish to take a lot of responsibilities or wish to go and help people out without reason sometimes, then you should look for lifestyle business. And for lifestyle business, even if it fails, you would not be worried. You should not be worried that, okay, you give a try and it fails, but you should be fine. But if a VC fails, you are answerable to a lot of people, and you should look for, okay, can I do that or can I not do that? Because eventually you will lay off your employees, you will say no to your investors, and even after a $100 million investment in a startup, it fails, and that is a very important aspect of the business. And as an entrepreneur, I want to see, okay, whether the person is very familiar with himself, is he comfortable in his own skin and knows what he wants more than anything else. That is something that he should look for in deciding whether he should go for a VC funding or a lifestyle business.
Thank you, Pravesh. Tadashi, anything you'd like to add here? Tadashi, have we lost you?
Oh, yes, I get. Can you hear you? Can you hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you. Any thoughts you'd like to add in terms of what Shiva and Pravesh were saying?
I basically agree with opinions that made these guys, and I have listened to there are so many business plans and in Japan, and actually the most of the business plan is a kind of a lifestyle for the, and only a small percentage of the business just kind of the venturing business is they wanted to really want to growing up, and I think as they said it's a depend on their personality and depend on what they want, and if the entrepreneur just want to do what they want, so they just want to continue the business. The lifestyle business is fine, but if you want to really growth and get a big market, and so I think that I can't really which one is better for that.
Thank you, Tadashi. Thank you so much. You guys touched on something very, very interesting, and Amarish, I'd love to direct this question at you first. Pravesh, you mentioned it, the sense of responsibility that comes with taking venture capital funding. And I was talking to a very successful super angel investor here in Silicon Valley, and he was saying that when he took venture capital funding, he felt a huge sense of responsibility towards these investors. And it almost like put so much pressure on him that he over-delivered the whole time at a cost to his family, to his health, to his lifestyle. My question to you, Amarish, is how do you feel about the founders always being the lowest paid employees in their businesses? Everybody else gets their salaries, but the founders are very scared. They're very worried. They put this pressure on themselves. They feel bad taking salaries because they feel they've taken venture capital funding. What is your thought?
Yes, that's correct, actually. See, founders of the company, if they are being funded by angel investor or the whenever the time the company is growing up, founders must not be paid as much as their other people are being paid, because founders must live on they must be living on this salary. They must get paid only as much as they are required to live on. Otherwise, the situation would be quite difficult to bear upon, because when you talk about the companies who are in their starting phase, if they want to grow, means they have to be very careful about each penny actually, because the investment is just an investment. You you don't, expect all the time very much positive as far as the return of the investment is going to come on the face of it immediately. So I think, yes, we ought to be not being paid as far as the founders are concerned, not being paid well enough just to live. That's all.
Thank you, Amarish. Shiva, we'd love to hear your insights here. Should the founders be the lowest paid employees in the company?
Yeah, I'm not sure. I have seen cases of both, right? I've seen some founders, if they're well funded, it depends in the funding, right? So I agree with Amarish in the angel stage. When you have little money and as a founder, you're making sure everybody else is comfortable in the ship, and you are obviously being incented as a founder to have obviously the most number of stock options or equity in the company, right? But I've also seen cases where when the company is well funded, they're Series A, they raised a large round, and I met a founder here in Singapore and in some of these high-cost cities that he did manage to convince his investors, his stakeholders, and also his employees that he could make a salary enough. He shared his figures. I thought it was a bit high, but he had a justification, and he was a very mature founder to justify that, hey, he needed it for certain financial obligations that he had. But I agree in general that the founder should make exactly how much he needs to survive from a cash perspective to get the home fires going. And then most investors here really get a little worried when the founder takes a huge paycheck. That's another trend here in Singapore, especially.
So Shiva, you've touched on some very interesting points as Amarish. Talking about that, you've lived in the US, you've lived in Singapore. These are very expensive places to live. What, in your opinion, like you read the studies, a lot of stuff online says $50,000 a year salary is, like a decent salary that founders should be living on. Now in the US, that's a challenge in certain cities versus in other parts of the world. For example, India, we've got a big community in Africa. $50,000 goes a long way. So what do you think is the answer? We'd love to hear your insights, the US versus Singapore versus the developing world. Please share with us your experiences in terms of, as an investor, what do you think should be covered versus what is just an indulgence as far as founders go?
Yeah, so I lived in San Francisco for more than 8 years, Singapore for about 5 years now. I would say, it depends on the cost of living. And so there's a conscious decision that not only founders but also employees have to make. It's sort of company culture, if you will, and which is driven top down to say, hey, no more expensive lunches, lifestyle. Pretty much I remember when I worked in an Indian startup, I was in Western India in a small city called Pune, close to Mumbai. It was one of the first startups in that city, which was sort of venture backed, and everyone, including the founder and right down to the bottom, we not only adjusted our lifestyles, but also our spouses, and we had set expectations at home with our family and so on in that aspect. So of course in India it's a bit easier to do. Like many of us had our own homes, and we could afford that. In countries like Singapore, for example, it's to be honest, it's very hard. So the only way we have got around it, and I've seen, like I've lived in Boston as well, and I was in Johannesburg for 2 months, but not in a startup, is you have to have a balance through some other means. Like in Singapore, many founders live with their parents, so it's very common here. It's one of the highest costs. It's one of the most costly cities in the world. Maybe Tokyo's number 2. So that's one. I know some people will relocate to other countries, like in Southeast Asia, for example. There's a trend to go to just have the headquarters in Singapore, being the financial capital, and have a low-cost operation in a country like Indonesia, Malaysia, Thailand, Vietnam, etc. So people spend a low-cost living, and they fly in here just to meet customers or investors and so on. So those are some things that I've seen. So you have to get really creative, but it's kind of difficult in high-cost cities.
Thank you, Shiva. Very interesting insights. Pravesh, any thoughts you'd like to share there?
Mm, I think it depends on the stage the startup is, and it really based on the cost cutting, but need not be like you are cutting everything out, and it is uh, affecting your productivity. Like it should be a balance between the cost and the productivity, because if you pay really low, and then talented people will not be on your team, or if you pay too much, then the investors are sad. So it should be a balance between cost as well as the productivity, because eventually we also want to see the entrepreneur getting successful and getting our money back. So if you cannot like you go for very low cost, but if you cannot execute your project in a short period of time or within a goal set date, it would be not valuable enough for the investors. So you have to be very careful on it's as Amr said, that it should be based on the preferences and depending on what kind of startup you are operating. So if an online startup, it can operate from anywhere in the world, and that's the way.
Thank you, Pravesh. And once again, you touched on something very interesting. So, spoke about it earlier in terms of the different stages of funding, and then at different stages, entrepreneurs stand to earn significantly more amounts of money as they raise more money. But we also are talking about lifestyle-owned businesses, bootstrap businesses. So often the entrepreneurs own their businesses outright and they pay themselves nothing and they don't save any money, which is why we're having this conversation today. So are there any other options, Amaresh, in terms of how entrepreneurs can remunerate themselves? I know Robert Kiyosaki is a very big proponent of take 10% of your salary, pay yourself first, always make sure to keep putting money away, prioritize yourself. What are your thoughts, Amaresh, in terms of protecting entrepreneurs when they do own their own businesses?
See, it's all about three fundamental factors. I look for three things in general. That's what I can advise upon. Entrepreneurs, I mean founders of the company, founders of the entrepreneurship activity, must have three things. One, knowledge about the product and services, whatever they are going to do. That is knowledge. The second, they must be a characteristic driven personality. Complete character they should have at least. Third, they must have passion about the job, passion about the product, passion about the technology, whatever they are into. So if these three are there, I hope the way they are asking means they would not be asking anything more than their living. They would never, because they understand, character-wise, they understand what is needed. So if these three things are available, I think investors must be quite comfortable as far as the investment is concerned.
Thank you, Amaresh. Tadashi, any thoughts you'd like to add to what everyone was talking about? Please go for it, Tadashi.
Yep. Okay. So when I give advice to the entrepreneur who just want to start a business and who just want to start a business, I always ask them to save their money to live on for at least 6 months. So because other guys says the Tokyo especially in Japan, especially in Tokyo, the living cost is pretty high, and so that just starting a business is pretty very costly. Even running company and even just living in Tokyo is quite expensive. So the people just think about how do you live first, and then they just start it. They need to start it and start their business. I think that's important for surviving their business and the continue your business. I think. Yeah. Is that right?
Thank you, Tadashi. Now, we have a very interesting question, and Shiva, we're going to direct this one at you, and we'd love to hear panelists' thoughts on it. You're the reality that in the beginning it's very hard to get customers for a lot of these companies, and that should an investor allow a founder to earn money from consulting work on the side, and at what point should this stop?
Yeah, that's a very interesting question. See, I would say any side activity. So there's a way you can structure it in which you can have the cake and eat it too. So I'll answer it in two ways. One, a side activity should not be extremely distracting. It can be slightly distracting. So one example I found is a fellow friend of mine. He's also a former investor. He has put together a huge sovereign venture capital fund, and he's also a founder and CEO right now of two companies. And he did side gigs of faculty. Like he was a adjunct faculty teaching on entrepreneurship. And through that, he used to drive leads, customers, partners to his company, and also helped manage to raise financing. That was a very creative approach. There's some people who do consulting on the side. I mean, if they're very senior in the industry and they can do like 10, 20% of their time and survive, that's another model I've seen. The only thing I would caution everybody is it should not become the main activity. If that becomes the main activity, then you're sort of not building the business, which is the purpose in the first place. The other thing you could do is if you're building a product and you're trying to research the market, I've seen some very creative entrepreneurs do consulting. Sort of you consult for your customer. And I'll tell you one brilliant example I found in Silicon Valley is a guy called Ramesh Wadhwani, who's a guy I really admire. He founded a company called Aspect Development. He consulted for one of his companies. He pretty much through that consulting, through that engagement, built the product. It was all aligned. The consulting was all aligned for the product he was building. They were the first customers, and they also invested, I believe, in his company. I don't know if all of that is true, but it was completely like a brilliant plan. So that's where I say you can have the cake and eat it too. But you have to be very creative.
So again, Shiva, you've touched on some very interesting points. It seems like that is the best case scenario for a lot of companies where you have your customer, you consult to them, you keep focusing on what you're doing, improving it, optimizing it, and you grow together with the company. My question is, what happens if along the way you realize that your company isn't doing as well as it should, but you're brilliant at your consulting work and your client offers you a job? Have you seen any case studies in terms of how you immerse yourself in the client's business? How do you then get remunerated because you've gone from being an entrepreneur to being an employee of the company? Any thoughts in terms of that?
Yeah, I have faced those situations. I have a client who wanted to acquire one of my businesses. This was a lifestyle consulting business. I had a client who wanted to hire me. You have to make some very careful decisions at that point to say, okay, well, I mean, I really go back to what some of the other panelists said. I mean, what is it that really you're trying to do? Are you trying to be an entrepreneur as an interim status, and then you want to really get a job, and maybe that's the outcome you need? And what's your life situation? Are you able to survive and still, continue on that journey? Do you have the grits to do so? Or do you say, hey, you know what? I'm in it for something big, and I'm going to really decline, which is really, really hard to do because there's money in your face. There's an offer on the table, and you have to say, well, sorry, that's not what I really want, because the opportunity cost of doing that is that I'm going to lose a huge market, and that's what I'm really after, right? So it takes a lot of character and a lot of guts, in my opinion, to say no. it's very tempting to say yes. So that's kind of my answer. I don't know. I wouldn't say there's a right or wrong answer in this situation. I've seen people compromise and say, okay, well, I'm just going to take that acquisition offer because it's attractive enough for me and it gives me a nice exit. I feel good. Or I've taken the job. I've seen some people merge their product into another company and then they become part of a bigger journey. There's really no right or wrong. It's really that situation that you're in and you're trying to analyze, what it is that's best for your journey, right?
Very interesting insight. Shiva, I'm coming back to you with a follow-up question. Any thoughts you have in terms of what Shiva's been saying?
Can I go forward?
Please go ahead, Pravesh.
Okay. What I believe is character and guts are very important in an entrepreneur. As I said, it's a responsibility, and if his investors are not, if his investors and his visions are not aligned, it would be very easy for an entrepreneur to take an exit so easily. But as an entrepreneur, you should be very sure what you are looking for in the future. Like, are you looking for a consulting business or are you looking for more stability of income? And it goes on about the planning when you start out. Like, if you don't have money and you are literally craving for every dollar or rupee that you are generating, then I think you should be very sure, because persistence is very important to succeed in any startup. And there are a lot of no right and wrong, but you should, as an entrepreneur and investor, you should be very clear about what you are looking forward in the future. And if things fail out, you should come clean. Don't keep your investors in that. Mostly, whatever you choose a path, but be clean, be ethical, have your own character and guts. It is extremely important in the future. Even if you exit, maybe in the future you need more money, and these investors can be really, because it's a small field of VC and everybody knows each other, so it would be very difficult for them to raise or go forward in the future. So they should be very careful about whatever decision they make.
Pravesh, thank you. Once again, you've opened the door to some very, very interesting. I'm going to be coming back to you as well. Amaresh, would you like to add anything in terms of what Shiva and Pravesh were saying?
Oh, well, this is very interesting actually to see how things go around. Shiva was completely, I agree with Shiva 100%, 100% actually. I can add something in it. As far as the investors' point of view, investors are always consultants to a company where they are investing, because they are looking forward to grow their money. They're looking forward to get their money back with the growth. So they are always a consultant to the company, 100%, without any fail. They are consultant. One. Second, when I talk about company's point of view, I mean founders' point of view, founders must not hire those people as consultants, because they are always their consultants. They are investors. Their investors would be always their consultants, because they are looking for their money growing. So they are consultants. Now, if I talk about whatever you Shiva was talking about, yes, it is completely a tempting situation where you invest and you look for being a consultant, or you are offered being a consultant, because they pay you money as consultants. There, we should be, rather investors should be avoiding tempted towards. They must avoid, because if they go as a consultant, once again, they would be looking for something which is difficult, which could be beyond their imagination. One. Second, if they are not going to be a consultant, some other consultants will come into play. Then that new company, the founders will find even added advantage of the newcomer consultant. Added advantage, because the company is new, technology or services are new, they want to grow, so they want maximum number of people who can add up in. So new consultants will add more value to it. That's what it is.
Thank you, Amarish. Once again, touched on the interesting points. Following in from what you guys were saying, I have a question for Shiva, and of course, I'd love our other panelists. Shiva, you've been around the block, you've seen a lot of stuff. Amarish touched on very interesting stuff, as did you and Pravesh. What are some of the biggest mistakes you've seen founders make with regards to salaries, being remunerated? As Amarish was saying, maybe partnering with clients, not partnering with clients. Please share your thoughts, Shiva.
Yeah, so let me, I think some of the mistakes I've seen is kind of, putting your employees or marginalizing your employees, right? Like, so for example, in one of the startups I worked, the employees quickly found out that, really they were not being remunerated on the equity side as much as they should be. And only certain people were getting more equity than the others. It wasn't a fair compensation plan. And so when you do that, you're pretty much, and people find out, right? I mean, there's nothing, although you sign paperwork that's confidential, but, nothing is confidential. There's water cooler conversations. So that's one mistake I've seen. The other mistake I've seen is not to lead, is when they don't lead by example. So when you say, you're going to work, X number of hours or X number of hours over the normal hours, and you're not in the office, but you're expecting employees to work then that's not cool. So you have to lead, and you have to be tougher as a founder. You have to be really tough on yourself, and sort of, I think that was touched upon earlier too, right? So that's another one where people spot these inconsistencies pretty quickly, right? And then you have to be really true. I mean, what you say and what you do and what you think, they all have to align very nicely. So if you're not true and you're not coming across as authentic, then it could lead to a lot of tension. So even within the founding team, I've seen, inconsistencies. And so especially the top guy, the CEO, to be honest, in my opinion, it's his job. So I always look in founding teams to say how the CEO is leading the team. What are the relationships? Are they looking at it short term, long term? Are they going to be there for the marathon, or are they just for the sprint? And something is going to blow up, and I'm going to lose all my money, right? So we look for all of these signals. So those are some of the things that we have observed, right? So those are some of the common themes.
Shiva, thank you. You've touched on something really important on it earlier. This issue of integrity, authenticity, everybody around you being able to trust you. A question for you, just quickly based on what you were saying. As far as employees joining early stage companies or just generally joining startups, what questions should they be asking themselves so that they don't make one of these mistakes?
Yeah, that's another tough one. I think I would say the first question they should ask from the founder, really they should do their due diligence on the founders, right? On the founders, on the investors, and find out, is there a cultural fit, right? Is this a team where their individual culture, their individual persona is going to match the startup culture? Like, I walked away from really famous employers or really, rock star, where you say, hey, they've all the perks, they're the best startup in the city, and the founders are rock star, and said, hey, you know what? My culture, my persona is not going to match the founder. Or, especially when we're going into a top team and we're, like the management team, right? That's really, really critical. If you're at a junior level, it is really important to know that you're liked and they're being liked, and it might be good to do a contract to hire. Sometimes I feel it's not uncommon. In some countries it may be frowned upon, like in Asian countries it may not be acceptable, especially in Singapore, for example. If you say, hey, I'm contract to hire, that might be frowned upon. But in the Western nations, it's okay to say, hey, is this okay? We do a project, we get to know each other, And then if you like us, we like us, obviously it's going to continue, right? That's a nice way to sort of try out each other, get on the advisory board, do a project, etc. And then I would find out, who else have they worked on? What have they worked with in the past? Just like they're doing due diligence on you as a candidate, you could do due diligence on them,
Fantastic advice. I know we're running out of time, but Amarish, any thoughts you'd like to add to what Shiva was saying?
I think he is right. Shiva is right, because due diligence has to be taken care by both the parties, or to be done rather by both the parties, and only the character, the conduct, the background of both the parties will actually advise what to be done and how to tackle it.
Thank you, Amarish. Pravesh, any thoughts you'd quickly like to add to this question? Pravesh? Okay, so we'll come back to Pravesh and to Tadashi. We're going to ask our panelists to quickly prepare their tweets. We'll come back and offer them their one piece of advice that we can go and apply to our businesses. In the meantime, thanks to everyone for this truly amazing session. Just to keep you posted on upcoming sessions with some of the world's best joining us again as panelists, and you can see how smart our panelists are and the amazing knowledge they share with us. If you'd like to learn what's coming up, please feel free to email us at inspireme@onlinefiresidechat.com, and we'll send you some very interesting. This coming Wednesday, we have an awesome session planned. Being an entrepreneur doesn't need to be complicated. Find simple, effective, profitable business ideas. They're everywhere you look. We have got some spectacular panelists joining us, so you definitely don't want to miss that one. Please keep us up to date on all your progress. We love to highlight your success. You can email us at inspireme@onlinefiresidechat.com. You can find me as well as our guests on LinkedIn. I'm sure they'd love to hear from you. You can also find us on Twitter. Don't forget, if you enjoyed this session and there are other entrepreneurs around the globe that you feel can benefit from our fireside chat, remember to keep sharing our invitations. We're trying to get to 100 countries in the next few months, and we can only do this with your help. Another really important thing is be grateful for all you have. We're incredibly fortunate to have our community, to be able to learn from such extraordinary global business leaders. So just be grateful for all the wonderful things you have, your friends, your family, your health, and the ability to build your businesses. Now, we're going to ask our panelists to please each give us a tweet piece of advice. Please go ahead, Amarish, tell us your tweet piece of advice. Amarish?
Should I give you right away?
Please go
yes,
ahead.
All right, the first piece of advice should be completely with yourself. Be yourself without any temptation. Just be yourself. I mean, follow yourself. Whatever you have idea, whatever you have the aggressiveness, whatever you have the quality within yourself, please follow that. That's what one. The second piece of advice could be, I'm not sure second piece of advice would how much be effective, but yeah.
Amarish, we're going to come back to that second piece of advice.
Yeah,
Shiva just has to log off on the dot. Shiva, please give us your piece of advice.
Get paid only as much as you need. Preserve capital, keeping the exit in mind. That's my piece of advice.
Thank you, Shiva, for joining us. We're very excited to have you join us. Please just shout bye to everyone. I know you got to run.
Yeah, I got to run. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, Shiva.
Thank you very much, Shiva. Thank you very much.
Bye,
See you
Shiva.
soon.
Amarish, please continue. I'm so sorry.
Yeah, no problem. So second piece of advice would be the same as he was talking. He gave, because we must be get paid only which is required to live on. That's what.
Thank you, Amarish. Fantastic advice. Pravesh, please give us your piece of advice.
Yes.
Pravesh,
can you hear
please
me?
go for it. Pravesh, are you there?
Sorry.
Pravesh? Tadashi, please go for it.
Okay, I just give the advice. I just give a short advice. So I just say just think about the money. Think about how much money you need to live on, and after thinking of these things and just started what they want. I think that's very important, especially to start a business in the developing country. So
Thank you, Tadashi.
Yeah.
Pravesh, do you want to
Yeah.
just shout by? Pravesh? We seem to have connectivity issues with Pravesh. Thank you again, everyone, for an absolutely amazing session. We hope you have a phenomenal week. We have a session on Wednesday. Can't wait to hear from you. Remember to keep hustling and never, ever, ever give up. Bye for today. See you soon, guys. Please shout. Bye.
Thank you and bye-bye to everyone.
Thank
Bye-bye.
you, Amarish.
Thank
Bye,
you, everyone.
Tadashi.
Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.